All eyes to the future as the Marlins and Frankie Pilieri with his first draft for the Marlins. They take PJ Morlando in the first round. Some stunning reaction to that one, but they back it up with Carter Johnson in round two. Tons to get into in a lively All-Star break. This is Locked on Marlins.
You are Locked on Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked on Marlins, your daily Marlins pod. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, at Miami Marlins _UK. Happy Saturday, guys. Thanks for making Locked on Marlins your first listen of the day. This is your team every day. It's part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Reminder, there is a YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe over on the YouTube channel. It is also called Locked on Marlins. Easy to find, easy to subscribe, and easy to comment. Join me in the comments every episode. Let me know your thoughts in particular about this draft class from the Marlins. We're going to get into that in some detail here. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. All right, guys. Firstly, hands up. It has been a good few days since the last episode. If you hadn't realized from Twitter, and if you don't follow me on Twitter, you won't understand why. But it's been a week away in Liverpool. I'm still here in Liverpool. It has been a lot of family birthdays going on. So unfortunately, family takes priority over Locked on Marlins. Nevertheless, I'm back trying to pump out an episode on a relatively sketchy Wi-Fi signal. So anything is possible here, guys. No doubt about it. Nevertheless, there's been a lot going on. Even though the Marlins haven't been playing, we've got draft reaction today, All-Star break reaction, of which, the home run derby in particular was a standout, not for the action by the offensive guys, but by the national anthem. We also have some roster movement headed into, yesterday's game. The Marlins win in their first game back after the All-Star break, but unfortunately some pain for Dane. And the 2025 schedule has also been released. So we have absolutely tons to get into, but we need to start with the draft reaction. Frankie Pilieri with his first draft and Peter Bendix with his first draft with the Marlins. So I was extremely intrigued to see which direction they went. As we know, every draft is different. You never quite know what's going to be available for the Marlins picking 16th overall. There was a lot of talk around, we're going to go college bat. Where did the Marlins go? High school bat. So all of the talk in advance. And listen, I spent a ton of time. My draft prep was basically looking up Seaver King. That's all I did. As you know, I'm not a pre-draft guy. I'm not really a huge draft guy. There's just too much to dig into. Too many guys. So I wait to see who is drafted by the Marlins, and we then naturally start following them pretty closely since then. Nevertheless, Frankie Pilieri with his first round pick at number 16 for the Marlins. If you haven't watched it, I'd highly recommend you go and check out the Just Baseball live stream. Obviously, it's now no longer live, but nevertheless, you can go back and check out their reaction. Aram Layton, obviously former Locked on Marlins host, with his immediate reaction. He is a Marlins fan, of course, clearly. And it was an absolutely stunning reaction. Don't think anyone was anticipating the Marlins were going to take PJ Morlando with their first pick. Nevertheless, once all said and done, the early indications, PJ's then out on the field yesterday with the Marlins. They're introducing him. He's doing a load of media, etc., etc. The early reaction to Morlando seems a real top dude. Seems a real nice kid, really mature high school. He's 19, so it's not like he's 17 and, fresh out. He's a 19-year-old guy, but I absolutely love what I heard from him, the way he spoke, the way he was just super hyped for everything, which is great. And as well, the main thing for me, I saw a clip of him before he spoke. Everything about him reminds me of Bryce Harper. And then you get asked the question, who do you look up to? Who inspires you? Who have you built your game around? Lo and behold, Bryce Harper. So listen, Morlando probably for many wasn't projected to go in the first round. Nevertheless, the Marlins take him in the first round. And if the Marlins get anywhere near some degree of production out of Morlando, like Bryce Harper, it will be seen as an absolute stunning pick from Frankie Pilieri. What we have to say is they went on the slot with this one. They had a guy in mind for the second round pick, Carter Johnson. They then pick him, another high schooler, another lefty. But with him, they needed to go over slot. So really, these two picks combined, Morlando and Carter Johnson, you gotta spread the dough. You gotta spread this draft pool money accordingly. They do that. So this was a strategic decision by the Marlins and Frankie Pilieri. Let's get Morlando in round 1, go under slot. We're going to go in round 2 with Carter Johnson and go over slot, piece together. You've probably got two, back end first rounders, early second round pick kind of profiles. So that's the way the Marlins have approached it. Again, what are we seeing from the Marlins and the way they're acquiring players right now? They are going super young. Super young. All of the main trade pieces coming back have been young guys, 19 or less. And that continues here with Morlando and Carter Johnson. So this profile continues. The Marlins are looking at 2028, 2029, 2030. That's when they're hoping that some of these guys will come to fruition. Many people see Carter Johnson as the better player right now, as the better prospect anyway, before they get into the system. They have Johnson significantly over Morlando. Haven't heard from Johnson thus far, so we'll give the reaction on him as we see that in the coming days. But nevertheless, for PJ Morlando, pumped for the guy. Love the approach, love his maturity, love the little clips I've seen of him blasting bombs with a very Bryce Harper-esque stance and approach. So again, listen, from a Marlins perspective, there's two aspects of this. Can you draft the right guys? And then it now gets into, can you develop them? And I think this is the acid test for the Marlins. We've seen it time and time again with them, where they take the toolsy guy, people like the prospects that people like. Next thing is they struggle with their developmental progression within the organization, and thus Marlins don't realize the value. One other note on this one, I think this is an interesting one that, I think when you look at what the Marlins have taken here, in many ways, there's a Bryce Harper 2.0. You've then got in round 2 with Carter Johnson, Gunnar Henderson 2.0. I mean, if Frankie Pilieri can get Bryce and Henderson out of the number 16 spot, let's not forget the Marlins are very, very likely to be picking in the top 5 in 2025. And to be honest with you, spoiler alert, they're going to be picking probably in the top 5 in 2026 as well. So if Frankie Pilieri can do this out of the 16 hole, just imagine what's going to be possible out of that 1, 2, 3, or 5 spot. Wait to see how obviously the draft lottery plays out. But expectations are the Marlins are going to be having a high pick this year and next. Going to be interesting to see what the profile switches to in the future as well. Is it going to continue to be high school tools, or is at some point they're going to make a little adjustment? Wait to see on that one. But it's fair to say Morlando was on no one's board for the Marlins to be taken in round 1. But you have to look at these two picks together, Morlando and Johnson. That's the draft. Those two guys, the top of the board for the Marlins, that's the guys. They come as a tandem. It's about spreading the pool money around. That's the approach they've taken strategically. The other thing on Frankie Pilieri, by the way, what I want to call out, he loves his profile now. What is clear? Young and an obscure sounding name in the main. There was all sorts of different names that I'd never heard of. There was a dub in there that was selected. So if there's a name that is slightly obscure, is tough to pronounce, Frankie Pilieri is all over that one, no doubt about it. So let me know your thoughts on the Marlins draft. A lot of people grading it as a mid-grade. I guess we probably linked to the Morlando pick. A lot of people probably not overly excited about that one. Maybe felt there were different or better options for the Marlins at that spot. But let me know your draft grade. I've seen a C, a C+. Like it feels like this was a middling draft at this point. But frankly, with the Major League Baseball draft, it's such a lottery. You can have the best on paper draft, and we've seen it turn to nothing. And we've seen 20th round pick guys turn into studs. There's so much that, so much can change from now until 2028, 2030 for these guys, particularly these young guys. So for the Marlins, it's all about identifying the right types of tools and mentality, personality, maturity, and then getting them into the organization and building them up the right way. That's what we need to see from the Marlins going forward. That's been the Achilles heel. That is the bit that needs to be fixed more than anything. I don't think it's about identifying talent. I think it's about developing talent. That's what we need to see. But early indications on that side, just to kind of round this off before we hit the first ad, is the early indications from Gabe Kapler and his front office and his approach with the developmental guys has been super encouraging. There have been guys, former top prospects for the Marlins, that seemingly had fell off a cliff. Careers stalled. Looks like they were going nowhere. All of a sudden, in Gabe Kapler's world, all of a sudden you've got resurgences happening and you've got guys performing. Jacob Berry, is it real? Is Jacob Barrels back? I don't know, but to me, right now, it's been super encouraging from Jacob Barrels. Obviously, the Mac attack is back. Tons of guys that seemingly had flamed and stalled in the previous, regime. They seem to have turned the corner. This is the point. Can Morlando, can Carter Johnson, can they hit the ground running in this organization and get this farm rolling? It's fair to say by the end of, midpoint of 2026, the Marlins could and should have, not just could have, they should have one of the best farm systems in the entire MLB, because with these picks, with the few resurgent picks that are there, plus the guys that are already at the top of the board and the pitchers in particular, there is starting to be the core of a system. You then start to add in a couple of top 5 picks into that. This farm system by mid-26 should be looking juicy. No doubt about it. Guys, let's hit the first ad of the day. And then we want to carry on our conversation around the All-Star break. Yes, the Marlins had a representative. I want to talk about him in particular, Tanner Scott, and equally another 4-out save from Tanner Scott yesterday. But we also need to talk about the main flashpoint of the entire All-Star break, the national anthem of the Home Run Derby. No doubt about it. So before we do that, firstly, let you know about our good friends over at Booking.com. Yes, sir. All right, so this episode of Locked On Marlins is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, and with summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you have always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rivals' cities with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival's city. No doubt about it. Booking.com is the go-to app for me. For the London series, for any travel, really, particularly sporting travel, Booking.com's the one. You need to be near the ballpark, the stadium, whatever it might be. That's what I was with London. Refined in where do I want to be? What price do I want to pay? And do I want a breakfast included? Yes, yes, and yes. Yes, sir. So from hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com, on the site, or in the Booking.com app. All right, guys, this episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks. Yes, sir, and PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. It has over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. You can win up to 100 times your money. Yes, you heard that correct. 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Turn $10 into 1,000. And if you're a promotions guy or gal, PrizePicks has got you covered every single week, from lowering select players' stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. So what have you got to do? Simply download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, guys, welcome back to Locked On Marlins with me, Peter Pratt, and thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. The draft has been completed. The Marlins expected to sign 20 of 21 of their selections. I believe that the catcher in the 15th round, I don't believe is expected to sign. Apart from that, looks like the Marlins are going to be able to get all of their deals done. They went strategic with their approach in terms of their first and second round picks. They like Johnson. I think that's the main thing, is they really like Carter Johnson, but felt that if they take Morlando early, they could get something done with Johnson. That appears to be the case. He has signed. I don't know the value, but it's likely to be at least $1 million over slot for Carter Johnson. Let me know your thoughts on the draft from a Marlins perspective. What would you have done differently, if anything? How excited? What have your reactions been of the introduction of PJ Morlando? Let's, though, segue across to the All-Star break. And boy, oh boy, there has been some flashpoints during this All-Star break. Many things going on. Firstly, let's talk about the actual All-Star game itself. Tanner Scott got into the game in a high-leverage spot in the 8th inning. And to me, that's just an indicator of how Tanner Scott is viewed in the game right now. He continues to impress. He continues to deliver in leverage. Yes, it was only the All-Star game, but listen, the juices would have been flowing for Tanner Scott. No doubt about it. He'd been feeling it. First All-Star appearance. And Skip Schumacher continues to make the point with Tanner Scott. He's even refined the number down. Post-game yesterday, originally, Skip Schumacher called out he's a top 5 reliever in the game. I think Skip went as far yesterday to say a top 3 or 4 reliever in the game. So, we continue to be refined. Threw that out there on Twitter, top 5 reliever in the game. That's how Tanner Scott is being viewed at this point. Few people came back going, well, I can name 5 off the bat, maybe 15 more that are better than Tanner Scott. Let me just give you some advice, guys. Go and check it out. You probably don't have a clue what Tanner Scott has been doing. Equally, you're throwing their names. You're throwing names out there that have maybe been good in the past, had one good season. I don't know. But the name in particular that stood out, Josh Hader. Josh Hader has not been anywhere near the level of Tanner Scott this year. Yes, he's had an impressive career thus far, but in the current season right now, Tanner Scott is outperforming Josh Hader significantly, and there were many others as well. So great to see Tanner Scott get in the game, in a leverage spot, and perform as well. So that was super encouraging. The main flashpoint, though, of this All-Star break came before the Home Run Derby, or Derby, however you pronounce this word. In the UK, it would be the Home Run Derby. But in the US, the Home Run Derby, it seems. Nevertheless, the flashpoint came with the anthems. And listen, I woke up in the morning, I went onto Twitter as normal. You're trying to catch up on the sports action, right? What happened in the Home Run Derby? Did Pete Alonso do what he normally does? What happened? I saw nothing. Zero information regarding what actually happened in the Derby itself. None. I didn't see one home run. I didn't see anything. All I saw was clip after clip after clip of the national anthem before the Home Run Derby, which was absolutely, I was like, okay, what's going on here? And it was probably 7:30 a.m. here at this point. Tara was still asleep next to me. Theo was also still asleep. So, I clicked on it, with the volume down. But boy, oh boy, what an absolute shocker. That anthem, I have to call it out, is the worst delivery of the US national anthem I've ever heard by any person, professional artist or not. It was absolutely, it was terrible. That's probably underselling it. Granted, we've now realized that there was maybe a few drinks on board, maybe a few other substances. I don't know. And rehab is on deck with that one. There's an apology thrown out there. But man, oh man, that will be a historic anthem for all the wrong reasons. It was absolutely disgraceful, to be honest with you. And that just showed. I still don't even know who won the Derby. I don't know, because that's all I saw for the entire thing, which is absolutely crazy, no doubt about it. But these things happen, I guess. The All-Star break in itself, from a Marlins perspective, Tanner Scott did what he needed to do. Also, there's a lot of jersey talk around the All-Star break as well, and the All-Star game in particular. What jersey should the players be wearing? Should Tanner Scott be out there in a Marlins jersey, or should they be in the team jerseys, the AL, NL, etc.? That remains up for debate. It feels to me like during the next round of negotiations, that maybe we'll see them return back to team jerseys. A lot of people seem to quite like the jerseys. A lot of people seem to quite like the caps. But then other people really hated the jerseys and just want to see, the guy representing your organization in their jersey. So, nevertheless, All-Star break, it comes and goes quick as well, right? It feels like a short break. And now it's like back to action. Everyone's back in the groove, straight back to play. The Marlins at home, taking on a Mets that are in the mix. The Mets are back in the mix. And then the Marlins take the Mets down in game one. Eddie Cabrera with 5 walks, couldn't get through 5 innings. Surprise, surprise. But in advance of that, there was a roster move linked to Dane Myers. And unfortunately, he's had to release a full note, an apology to everyone. So we're going to talk about that in more detail after the ads now. And also the 2025 schedule has also been released. So we can start getting hyped and excited for the 2025 season as well. I'm interested to see, they get the Pirates in opening day again as well, which definitely creates an enticing situation on opening day, depending on who will be pitching for the Marlins. But before we continue that conversation, firstly, let you know about our good friends over at SupplyHouse. And you can get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands. Get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. And this episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. I love sports. You know this. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone all day, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, guys, welcome back to Locked On Marlins with me, Peter Pratt. It's Saturday, the 20th of July. Apologies for the break in service with Locked On Marlins over the past few days. Unfortunately, family time was prioritized. I say unfortunately, it's probably a little bit unfair, but family time was prioritized over Locked On Marlins. But I'm back just about. Hopefully, this episode is recording perfectly on this Liverpool broadband router. Guys, roster move yesterday. We heard the news in advance of the All-Star break, but it was made official. Dane Myers headed to the IL with a broken foot. Dane ejected from a game pre-All-Star break. In the frustration, ends up kicking out and breaking his foot. Huge disappointment for Dane Myers, considering the opportunity that was right in front of him. And that opportunity would have been even greater, potentially, considering what the situation and status may be of Jazz Chisholm Jr. in the coming week and a bit. But nevertheless, Dane effectively out probably for the rest of the season. By the time he's maybe back into rehab, I think to me, this is probably the end of Dane Myers' campaign, which is disappointing. Nevertheless, he's owned it. He's apologized. And, I think everyone's a huge fan of Dane Myers. I personally am. feels like all Marlins fans are right behind Dane. So listen, these things happen. Not optimal. There was definitely about to be an opportunity for Dane Myers, but equally, I think there's definitely going to be an opportunity into next year as well for Dane Myers, considering the way this roster is likely to look in the coming weeks and headed into 2025 with the expectation that Marlins do not look to beef up and prioritize big league ready prospects at this point. So the corresponding move, Otto Lopez back in the mix, and Otto Lopez making another huge impact for the Marlins yesterday. Less so offensively, but the defensive aspect of Otto Lopez has been super impressive all year long. Going from Luis Arias into Otto Lopez has been a significant upgrade, no doubt about it, and he has been an absolute stud. One other note, just talking about second base. We're not going to talk about Jazz in this episode. I'm going to talk about Jazz in tomorrow's episode because I want to get deep into that topic area more generally, as there continues to be more happening, more rumors, more teams linked to Jazz, more information shared around what execs are seeing with Jazz. Nevertheless, the one thing that did happen, I spoke about it a few weeks back around, is it now time for Jazz to transition back towards the infield, considering, well, the season's cooked, and also the fact that teams may be eyeing Jazz Chisholm Jr. as an infielder at this point rather than a center fielder. Lo and behold, Jazz Chisholm Jr. back playing some second base. Otto Lopez now back, though. Jazz returns back to center field. We'll talk about Jazz in more detail tomorrow for sure, but just wanted to highlight that one. Otto Lopez back, playing second base and playing it at an elite level. We've seen Xavier Edwards also taking some steps forward at shortstop. So very much encouraging signs from the young group playing the middle infield for the Marlins right now. There will be growing pains clearly, but Otto Lopez has been a standout. Let's wrap up here with the 2025 schedule that was announced. A few headlines, I guess, from that one. The Marlins will face off again against the Pittsburgh Pirates on opening day. Reminder, they did that as well this year. So most likely for the Pirates, all being well, we expect Paul Skenes obviously to be getting the ball. And from a Marlins perspective, the question will be is who will get the ball on opening day? Jesus Luzardo this year. Previous years to that, Sandy Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara also expected to be back, healthy, available for opening day. The question will be, does he remain a Marlin? I think there's a few question marks that will need to be answered on that topic. But all being well, you could well get a Paul Skenes, Stanley Alcantara opening day matchup. Two Cy Young caliber pitchers going there. So that is exciting in many ways. I think the bigger picture more generally with 2025, I mean, the way the schedule works now is, you know, it's in that space now where you get to see every team, which I think is a really great change they made. So that will continue. The Yankees will be back into Miami, which always pumps up the attendance. I think it's scheduled for around August time on a weekend series, which is absolutely perfect. So that should be another packed out situation like it was back in 2023. The other thing as well, the Citrus series has been boosted, enhanced. Normally, it's 2-game series against the Rays. However, for 2025, there's going to be 2 3-game series for the Marlins and Rays. Probably not good for the Marlins, considering the Rays typically own the Marlins. But nevertheless, the schedule is out there. Skenes versus Alcantara could be huge on opening day. However, the Marlins roster very much expected to be significantly depleted even from this year. So 2025, very much likely to be a similar challenge for the Marlins. Unclear on who will be the manager. Unclear what the rotation looks like. Unclear what the offense looks like. I mean, the bullpen to me will be another huge question. From a bullpen perspective, I'm expecting at least 4 guys from the Marlins to be moved in the next few weeks. The question is when and what price tag they return. Just one quick segment on that. Eli Sussman with a great short form pod, talking around AJ Puk, considering his performance as a reliever, the years of control, and what we've seen recently with a recent trade in advance of the deadline, calling out that AJ Puk's value may be the highest. I don't know if that would be true, considering what Tanner Scott's ability could be, but with Tanner Scott, clearly the lack of control there with AJ Puk, there is that multiple years of control beyond this year. Nevertheless, guys, it's great to be back. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen. I'm going to be back tomorrow. Really want to dig in on Jazz Chisholm Jr., update you on where that one's trending. Feels like there's a lot of chatter around this one. It feels almost inevitable that Jazz has moved, and it feels like at the moment that the price tag is going to be lower than expected. We have to ask why, and if that is going to be the actual reality. Look forward to seeing you then.